Now, the most trusted name in radio, Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airwaves.
The Lord our God says, take care of the widows and the orphans. The gentleman in my studio today, I'm honored to have all three of them here. Michael Keene is the CEO of 4 Kids. Cory, I don't know what your official title is.
Church Engagement Coordinator.
Director of Engagement Coordinator.
Yes, sir.
I like that. Director of Engagement. There you go. And, of course, we have Pastor Trevor, who has 2 children already adopted. And he's the pastor of Morning Star Church here in Vero Beach, Florida, over on Oslo, with a Sunday morning service at 10 a.m.
Yep.
And other things that are going on there. You might want to check them out. And so Michael Keene has 7 children. 3 which are their own biologically, and 4 that are their own but adopted.
Correct.
Wow, that's just wonderful. And thanks for being here today. So, hey, maybe a life will be changed. If you know somebody that's considering adoption, if you know a younger couple might be interested, maybe I shouldn't say younger, because maybe, do you ever have older people that come and adopt?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I thought the law was you had to be your age minus maybe 20 years or something. In other words, like me as a 70-year-old, I could only get like a 50-year-old.
Not quite. No, not quite.
Getting old's not funny, especially when you're still 19 inside, you know. They call you sir and you go, I don't think so, but they don't know it. Okay. But anyway, so it's good to have you guys here, and thank you very much what the 3 of you are doing, because it is our Father's heart to take care of the orphan.
Yeah.
And he even says that he is the father to the orphan. I lost my dad at a very early age, and I will confess, and part of my testimony is that he came in, and he said he promises. He says, bring me to remembrance of my promises. So he's saying, oy vey, he's at it again. I say, you promised you're the father to the orphan. And so some things that happen in my life make no sense. But if you're out there and you're an orphan, the Lord will bless you. The Lord is not a man that he should lie. And these gentlemen are helping people adopt children. So great. It must be great to do something in life that's like altruistic.
Yeah, it's pretty special to be able to get paid to do what the Bible calls pure and undefiled before God.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
Now, were you doing something else before this, or how did you fall into this?
Yeah, so I have an interesting kind of work history. I've kind of been all over the place. I graduated from the University of Florida with an undergrad in religion. Knew from my high school days that really ministry was kind of the track I wanted to go on. So I studied religion to have more of an intellectually well-rounded view of what the world views are. That way I can have certain dialogues with people and know how to navigate some of those conversations. From there, went to seminary, so I have a master's degree in biblical studies and languages.
Really? From
Southern Evangelical Seminary up in North Carolina. And during that time in seminary, I was a citrus farmer, and then I was we call them sanitation engineers, but it's just a fancy name for a garbage man. Worked in public works department. And then from there, moved into
it sounds like you went through the school of humility.
For a long time, for 2 years, I was having direct conversations with the Lord and really saying, what am I doing here? Why do you? And I remember, I've told Cory this. It's a part of my testimony. I remember the exact part of the road I was on in my garbage truck when I was having this conversation. He said, "Son, why don't you say that out loud?" And I said, "Sure. God, why do you have me doing this? Why am I picking up garbage? Why do I stick my head in garbage cans to do this?" And he he didn't say anything. And I said, "Wow, that is some serious pride." And then he said,
"Why? Why is it prideful?"
Because I was elevating myself to a position where
you were superior to being a garbage can.
Where I was superior. And he said, "Son, if I don't work some of these things out of you, you're not only going to ruin yourself in ministry, you're going to ruin other people too." So that was about 2 years into that, and I was like, "Great, we got it. Let's go. Let's get into ministry now." And he said, "No, about 3 more years of this, and you'll be good." So, it was a number of years that I did, and the job was wonderful. Don't get me wrong. It just when you know the calling that God has put on your life, it may be in a future spot, but you have to go through that period of getting some stuff out of you before you can go into what he's called you to.
My friend became the CEO of Coldwell Banker. And Fred DeFalco lives down in South Florida, Boca Raton or whatever. He's a realtor. And he worked on the back of a garbage truck when he was younger. So it seems to be part of the process. I wanted to ask you one thing. You know, the Bible says the Lord, you start doing work for the Lord, he says, those who do bear fruit will be pruned, that they will bear more fruit. Now, I don't know if these other two guys in the room know about this, but if you were a citrus farmer, you probably know about pruning.
Yeah.
And I remember I was not dating, but I had a platonic relationship with a lady up in Ocala maybe about 35 years ago, and she had groves. And she said, in this business, you always ask your neighbor to do the pruning. You probably understand why. Would you explain why?
It's very true, because you see what is produced outwardly, and when you cut back, there's a point that you can cut back to where it's not going to actually produce anything. So you can go through the process of cutting back without actually stimulating the tree enough to produce a more abundant crop. So when you cut back trees, when you cut back citrus trees, it's almost like you're cutting away years worth of growth on a tree in order to produce a crop that's going to be many-fold.
In other
increased.
words, it's severe, gentlemen. It's so severe that if you see a properly pruned tree, you'll think, they killed the tree, they killed the tree. But then it bears fruit 100-fold, 200, 300-fold. So anybody been through that process in this room?
Oh, yeah. yeah.
Very much so.
Yes, that's just amazing, the analogies and how God puts everything together, huh? And Mike, Cory, how'd you get involved with 4 kids?
Yeah, so in 2020, my wife and I became respite care foster parents, just drop of a hat. It was my brother and sister-in-law had just adopted earlier that year, and we thought, well, let's see what the fostering route has to lead, and we didn't think it would be that fast, but it's quick. And we were told, hey, there's these 2 children that have nowhere to go for Christmas, and they're going to sit in their caseworker's office over the Christmas break.
And you had a chance to give these 2 children Christmas. How old were they?
Yeah, so they were 2 and 3 years old.
Oh, my word. So you fell in love with them, huh?
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, and so we only had them for a month, but we were able to give them what we hoped was the best Christmas that they had.
What about that? What about not only you falling in love with them, but they falling in love with you?
Yeah.
And, you know, because I heard a story years ago about an older couple in town that were hanging out with this child for maybe 7 years, and just one weekend said, well, we've decided we're moving away. We're going to retire wherever, another state, and so we're going to say goodbye. And that child was like, oh, my God, just pulling the rug out from under the child into a pit.
Yeah.
What about that? How do you?
Yeah.
I mean,
There's a lot of mourning, yeah, for sure, yeah, and
I guess it's better to have loved and lost than not to have loved at all.
yeah, and really in foster care, and so 4 kids, we are in foster care agency, and so sometimes that leads to adoption, but the main goal is foster care, and in foster care they try for reunification with their biological parents, but if that doesn't work, then they ask their caretakers, their foster parents, if they would adopt.
Can I be straight about something, too? As a white male in today's society, okay, somebody accuses you of going into a dressing room 35 years ago, and they convict you, a former president of the United States, whether he did or didn't, I don't know. But there's no evidence. And so it's, what if a child should say, you know, you attempted something you didn't do, or you admonish them, they get mad. I'll show you. There was a girl, African-American girl in South Florida a few years ago, and she said this teacher had attempted to do something, this man, African-American teacher, and he was arrested. He's in jail 3 years. When she accuses another man of doing something, she's in the court, and she breaks down crying and said, this man didn't do anything, and either did the man in jail. Yeah. Ruined his life. So what, I mean, you know, because I'd like to adopt. I mean, even with Trevor, Pastor Trevor's in here, and they have 2 adopted children who have taken to me. And even the little one, the new little one, she's come up to me. I don't know if I met the little boy yet or not. Is that a baby?
Another little girl. Only one. Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, but even I'm, you know, taking my time getting to know them, because you know what I'm saying? It's, and like with another young man who has, what's that thing that he has, the teenager?
Oh, the Asperger's? Or?
Yeah, Asperger's, yeah. And even him, I'd like to get close to him, want to help him, but taking my time because, you know, we want to slowly get to know. So are there rules and regulations, and how do you handle this without feeling like you're walking on broken glass?
I mean, I'll speak a little bit to that, and that is, one, for kids, they provide probably some of the best training that you could receive as a foster parent about, what to do, things to protect yourself against, things to be aware of. So I'm not going in blind to a situation. There's a lot of things that, boy, I never really thought about that before. Even as a high school teacher, there's a lot of, things you have to, consider. But because of the training through 4Kids, they really prepare both husbands and wives or individuals that want to be a foster parent how to do it well, avoid those kind of situations, really build a trust relationship, and ultimately encourage that child when, again, as Cory said, this is about restoring families. God is in the business of restoring families. And so
but sometimes that restoration means you fall in love, but then they're given back to that family.
Another lady, a part of the program, y'all know her, Kenya. She came in our house. This was like 2.5, 3 years ago. And my wife, we've dealt with infertility for 10 years. We've been praying about how to raise a family. And, you talk to a family that's been struggling with having our own kids. I mean, how about taking in a child and then handing them back? That's a huge heartbreak.
Yeah.
But what convinced us was when Kenya said, well, what if this is the only time this child would ever feel God's love?
Yeah.
Isn't it worth it? And that's where we said yes. And so, that might be just what you do. You love on a child and you care for them, and they come back to their families, and you walk through heartbreak yourself, but there's hope on the other side of it. The equation it's not left at heartbreak. There's always hope. And hopefully the gospel restores the whole family too.
Yeah, there's a saying in the community that, because we get this a lot, right? We get people who are interested in fostering, but they say, I don't think my heart could take it, or I just would love them too much, it would be too hard. And how we try to phrase it is, well, we let our hearts break so that theirs can heal. Because regardless of whether or not you take the child in, there's still a child that needs a home. And we need to get over ourselves and the heartbreak that we're afraid of so that we can provide a healing place for these kids to go.
You take a kid from the city. When I was a kid, I went to Camp Wawa Segoya. Woo! Okay. So you take a kid, though, out of the city, and you put him up to camp. This was in New Canaan, Connecticut. And you put that child into a camp. You send that child back to the city. Never gets to go again. You can take the child out of the camp, but the camp is going to stay in the child. And that's a goal, a setting, while this other world exists, if I work, if I go to school, whatever my plan and my desire, I want to get back there. They like the country, for instance. I mean, so, right? It's better, as I said before, better to have loved than lost, not to have loved at all. Now, what about, when I was out on my own due to alcoholism and some other problems. My father was killed in a car accident when I was very young, living on my own at 14. Now, I will say this. So I'm a born-again Christian. That happened to me when I was 29. So, of course, I don't believe that homosexuality is sinless. I think it's a sin. Okay. But I also think adultery is a sin, and I think guys that are running churches have been married 3 times, who are you to point a finger? But I can tell you this. I don't know what to do with this in that, first of all, I believe Jesus taught me a few years ago. I used to be judgmental. He said, I didn't save you to judge others. I saved you to love others. Bring him to relation. In other words, so now I'll be friends with anybody. And if I get to tell you about my Jesus, I get to. What you do is really, on your side of the street, is really not my business. Now, what do you do about this, though? So let's say we don't agree. We agree that it's not a lifestyle you would like to promote. But I can tell you as a 14-year-old, if some gay couple of 2 lesbians or 2 gay guys said, hey, we're going to love you, we want to take you in. Nobody did that for me. And I tell you what, it would have been really nice to have a home back then. So what do you do with that?
So we as a Christian ministry stand on our biblical convictions, and we license Bible-believing Christians that align with our spiritual statements of faith. So we don't license homosexual couples. There's 2 other great organizations in this area that we refer them to. And really the way that we support our families through the local church, if you're not in a church, you don't reap the benefits that how we operate. So we want to plug you in with a place that you're going to be best served. And with us, we do our service through the local body of the church.
Well, there has to come a place where you draw the line in the sand. I mean, what would Jesus say to Rhett? Well, Rhett, what do you want? You know what I mean? There has to be. He said, "Let your yea be yea, yet your nay be nay." And he said, "I wish above all things that thou were either hot or cold. For if you are lukewarm, I will spew thee out of my mouth." And that's what you're doing. You're saying, "Well, this is where we're drawing. No hatred. People, I want because they get this whole thing going on with Christians. We do not hate anybody. No homosexuals, no lesbians, no nothing. We don't hate anybody. It's just that this is a standard that we believe is the proper standard, but also with yourself. If you're involved in a sin, take yourself out of a leadership position, right? Whether you're in a church or whatever you're doing, right? Until you clear that up. So anyway, who wants to speak next?
Well, it's a good conversation to have.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to have the conversation.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the dialogue back and forth. And again, who we are as a ministry first is reflective of how we see the gospel. And we want children to be coming into homes that the family, a marriage is representative of the gospel, of the way the relationship of God is with his church. And the biblically accurate model of that is a heterosexual relationship. So that's what we model.
I'd even speak to the fact of, when you've got Christian families and you have a mom and a dad, present, a foster mom and dad present for a child who might be fatherless or motherless, and for a young kid, we live in a culture where we see the repercussions of children who grow up without dads or without moms, and
if you're an African American child and you're a boy, there's a 96% chance if you don't have a dad in the house, you're going to go to prison.
Is that the statistic? I'm not sure.
It's something like that. I mean, I know some statistics are made up on the spot, but I don't know what the exact one is.
But even then, I mean, there is something powerful, and I think that's just because the Bible is to be a benefit to the culture and the society that it's supposed to support. That's why you want people to live by Christian standards, even if they don't believe. There are certain values and qualities about a Christian life, education, following the Ten Commandments. I mean, that is a blessing. In fact, ancient Israel, because of their faithfulness to God in the years that they were, was to actually be a blessing for the nations around them, which were practically enemies of God. And so I think when you represent Christ and Jesus well in practice, through the 4Kids program or through just in the local church, it is to be a blessing to those who you get in contact with.
And I will clarify that according to the state and according to 4Kids, you don't have to be married in order to be a licensed foster parent. So you could be a single mom or a single dad as well.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
It's amazing the influence. I was just thinking. I was writing down two names while you were talking. There's Mr. Holleran. He was my what did you call it? And when I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember, but we used to teach you how to drive a car in school. I think they called driver's ed.
Yeah.
And anyway, Mr. Holleran, how long did I know him for? A few weeks? Yet all my life I've thought of Mr. Holleran because when I see a ball coming out into the street, I know a child's going to follow. All these little lessons. When you want to move traffic, get under the light, move. You don't have to turn to the right before you turn to the left. All these things. Who knows that he saved my life? And then there's Mr. Bender, who was my principal till I was in 9th grade. That's it. Never saw him again. Yet I remember his kind, sweet smile and his demeanor towards me gave me somehow value. So you're right. Maybe you're only a foster child for a week or a month, but how they're going to hold on to that love like a golden nugget, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard it put this way too, and it really brought a lot of healing to myself and my wife, where the children needed us in that time to be able to trust again, because what they had been through was so dramatic, and they just lost all faith, all trust in a parental figure. So even though we were only in their life for a month, we were able to show them love of Christ and allow them to trust
What about the fact that you might be letting them go because it's beyond your power, and they're being put back with those same people that
Well,
perpetrated a crime.
So after that, they were placed with a licensed foster family from a different organization, and they had them for about a year, and were able to adopt them.
No, why couldn't they
and
stay with you?
it was respite at the time where we didn't have any certifications, any licensing,
Okay.
anything like that. So we were just a bed. we were a home to.
So let's say
for
somebody's
them.
out there interested. First of all, let's continually give out your name and number. It's 4 kids.
Yes.
Hope, Homes, and Healing. You're located on the internet.
Yeah, 4kids.us.
4kids.us. That's
Yep.
easy.
Yeah,
And the
very
letter,
simple.
the number
The
4.
Numerical 4, yep.
4kids.us.
Yep.
Okay. So you just said something, and I interrupted myself by saying that.
Well, Michael King and Cory, their home office is based out of
Out of Stewart.
Stewart,
Yep.
and they represent 4Kids of the Treasure Coast. But 4Kids started back in the day almost
1990, yeah, 97.
down in Fort Lauderdale, and it's
Yeah.
expanded hugely. It's, in fact, I think a wonderful agency for almost the entire peninsula.
Yeah,
It seems
all
like.
of South Florida. So we serve 13 different counties of South
What was the
Florida.
genesis? Who
So Calvary Fort Lauderdale, Calvary Chapel Fort Lauderdale.
Calvary Chapel started
Of
it.
Fort Lauderdale, yeah, it was a we're still an auxiliary ministry of Calvary Chapel.
I
Fort
knew
Lauderdale.
Pastor Chuck Smith. I had
Okay.
breakfast with him twice when he was alive.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
A real, the real McCoy.
Yeah. So 1997, started off with a vision with a few people, and God has really blessed it again. I mean, you said in the beginning, God has a special blessing on those who are in this space of we try to steer away from the term orphan unless it's in its accurate meaning, because a lot of the children that come into foster care, we also want to be respectful of their biological families. So
So you don't use the word orphan.
No.
we would only use it in the classical sense of a child who has lost their birth parents to death. So they're children, kids in foster
What was
care.
the quote you had from the Bible when we started this interview?
So James 1:27, pure and undefiled religion before God is caring for orphans and widows and keeping oneself unstained from the world. Yeah.
Pretty cool. Okay, so there's a couple of things. We need to talk about money. We need to talk about training. Which do we want to broach first? How about the training? You wanna
I
talk
mean,
about training?
really, you got a picture here, not from us guys, but just the roles here. Michael, who helps kind of oversee all the kind of the counselors and the programs that help foster parents be foster parents. So he makes sure that there are people who get licensed and walk through training and trauma-informed training, and he even trains their employees to then train the families. And then a guy like Cory, through church engagement, connects these families from local churches. You get the local church involved, you've got this natural support system, which is so healthy. I think this is why 4Kids has done so well, is they've relied on the local church be the kingdom builder. And then I pastor for church, but also they trained me as a foster parent, and so I'm seeing the other side of, okay, so they're equipping me, they're keeping me from burnout because they've got a lot of support for parents, such as respite care when we needed some time off, but also when we've got birthdays, and they send over little packages, and they just and like even a family picnic, like there's one this Saturday. So quick plug, but
Yeah.
Riverside Park
Well, you
tomorrow.
can confer with the other parents.
Yes, and we've got a weekly meetup Thursday nights. Weirdly, I can't come on those Thursdays, but my wife's in Bible study, so I'm running a preschool at 8 o'clock. But so all of these key positions are wrap around this child in foster care, and I share in the same conviction you do. I even more so don't use the term foster child. It's a child.
Yep.
In foster care.
Child
in foster care,
So
yeah.
not a foster child.
Yeah,
A
you know,
child
'cause-
under the umbrella of foster care. That's
You
good.
know,
There's
and
power in that.
And so you put these identities together, and you build a system to give a child the most success to thrive and reconnect to their family in a way that's safe and loving, and hopefully spurs them on to make a choice for Christ at the end of it all.
People need a word and they need a direction. This may seem, I don't know if I should bring this up or not, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. So I knew a girl when I was 16, and her mother, she said, was a nymphomaniac or whore. And so she told me that she thought that was her call in life because her mother had been that. And people are groping for a position. They want to know what's yay and nay. They want to know what's drawn in the sand. You know, in any society, we're talking about this issue before, in any society throughout history, where the lines become vague before what's expected from a female or a male, that society soon falls apart. Mm-hmm. Greece, Rome, go on. Yeah. Check out history. Mm-hmm. And that's why they want to erase history, right? But anyway, so there's my age showing. What was I going to say about, I was talking about, what was I talking about? I kind of...
Well, you're blending roles and maybe...
Yeah. The roles, what was I going to say?
Well, and descriptions too, like...
Oh, I know. The one I told you about, that lady Florine, and she said she was going to be, thought she should be a whore. But if you come and say, I remember when I used to go to a Bible study 30 years ago, and I would pick up this old Italian lady, probably about my age, but then she seemed ancient to me then. But anyway, so I'd pick her up on Tuesdays, and I get to her house, and she says, "Oh, Rhett, you're sort of handsome. You wear the nicer tie and a jacket and you know." So every Tuesday, I would I'd stand in front of the mirror. I put on this tie, that tie. I wanted to live up to that expectation. Later in life, I realized her speaking that into me. The Bible says, confess things that are not as though they were. Also, we know that Moses was not allowed into the kingdom because he hit the rock. God said, speak to the rock. And you messed with God's most important thing, because God spoke the world into existence, and we are made in the image of God. So what we say to one another, it can either be a curse or a blessing, and children will respond to that. Yeah. So it's important. Even what I'm getting at here is back to the 4-week thing. You have a child for a month, but some of those words will have endured. You know, they think they used to say, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Yeah. I think I'd never had a broken bone, but I think sometimes that might be better, because that can heal, as opposed to don't you hear things in your head that somebody said when you were a little kid?
Yeah.
You know, hey, fatso. Oh, thanks a lot. I'll remember that to the day I die. You know? Yeah. And I'm talking about some guy, he said worse than that. I was in a parking lot 30 years ago when I wasn't even fat yet. I still remember that guy.
I think anybody remembers their middle school, high school bullies.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You know, I thought, the moment he said it to me, I said, thanks a lot. I'll remember. And he said, add some other swear words around it with the alliteration, if you get my drift. And I said, thanks. I'm going to remember to myself. I said, I'm going to remember that the rest of my life. You know, and I had a pastor and his wife in the back of my van too. But anyway, so see, words are powerful, and so I'm just trying to talk to myself as I'm talking to you too. Say, yeah, it's worth investing in a child, even if it's for a short period.
You know, I have a huge prayer for more churches to get involved in the 4Kids ministry. Just this past year at the Gala fundraiser, Michael shared a statistic that just blew me away. And that was that about 70% of the homes being licensed on the Treasure Coast are distinctively Christian homes that are plugged into a local church somewhere. And you think about, we live in a world where you feel like the church is so small. What can we do? We're no longer able to really impact a world of 7 billion people. And yet, let me tell you, to know that every child that might go into foster care gets to encounter a Christian family, gets to be told about how Jesus loves them and cares for them. I mean, this is a huge area where the church is making bold moves forward, a real advancement for building the kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. I'm very fascinated by that, and we need there's like 100 churches in Indian River County. I'd love to see all of them have some partnership with 4Kids. So that to me is very important.
Yeah, we are the leading provider of foster homes in the Treasure Coast. Yeah, with just about 70% of the licensed foster homes being 4Kids, and the majority of over 50% of the kids coming into care will end up in a 4Kids home. It's an issue that the church is well prepared to answer. One, they need to be exposed to it. And 2, they need to be trained up in how to do it. And that's really, we don't see 4Kids as being the solution to the problem. we believe that the people of God are the solution. We want to empower a church to have a healthy child welfare ministry, because that's what God has said is the foundation of our faith, is pure and undefiled before God is caring for the orphan and the widow.
But how come I've never, in all the years I've been going to church, I got saved in 1983, I've never seen someone like you guys come in on a Sunday morning and have the pastor say, we're going to give this organization 4 minutes, 10 minutes, changing lives,
Yeah.
Is it because there's not enough people actively as spokespersons for you? What can be done so people like me, maybe I would have heard this message when I was younger.
Well, we have a small staff, but Pastor Trevor has been indispensable in this community with getting the word out. But it is something that we will hardly ever say no to a church that reaches out and says, "Hey, will you come talk?" I will never say no to that if it's a church that falls within our belief system. But we need the community to come together and voice this with us. We need advocates in the community. Pastor Trevor is an amazing advocate for us in the Indian River County area. We need advocates in St. Lucie County. We need Martin County. We need Okeechobee.
Yeah.
We will, believe me, we've got memorized 4-minute announcements, 10-minute presentations, and I don't know if Cory does, but I've got 45-minute sermons that's only me, right? But I've got those. I mean, it's plug and play for us. It's about getting the opportunity to be presented in front of a congregation of people.
Well, what gives you, if you don't mind me, I just met you today.
Yeah.
What gives you credibility is you've got 3 biological children and 4 adopted.
Right.
So you got credibility. Because my immediate thought when you were saying this, I said, but the best thing is to have somebody up there who's done it. A lot of people can talk about it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. This is our magazine, by the way, and I'll help out. I mean, if you decide you want to put an ad in, I'll give you 50% off. Because what happens if one child? Oh my God, that would be because we have bills to pay. I have to. I'm sorry. Hey, I'd give it all away. That way, but I can't. But 50%. I mean, whatever you want to do, because if it's in there, imagine one. I participate in one child getting adopted. It just breaks my heart. I was thinking about Truett Cathy. I am honored, not proud. That would be a wrong word. But I am honored that I got to spend some time with him. I interviewed him years ago. In case you don't know who Truett Cathy is, ladies and gentlemen, he's the guy that started Chick-fil-A. And the one thing is, if you go to Chick-fil-A, and you're a Christian, you probably know what I mean, but I pull up and I go, what's going on here? Every child that's taking orders has manners and a smile. And it's not an oppressive thing, like not some dogmatic, oppressive religion. Jesus said, I come to set the captives free. Don't get entangled up in laws again. They're beautiful children. And so I think that, anybody that I remember driving down. I'm from the north. We didn't really have Chick-fil-A up there. The only thing I knew about Chick-fil-A is that there was this guy who became a billionaire, and he put up the money for Sandy Patty to have her music career, and her brother had sang on one of my recordings. And so, funny thing is, when I met him, I didn't even bring up the money. I probably should have. Anyway, he invited me up to see him, but now he's passed. But they've done such a good thing, whatever they're doing with those kids. And literally changing the world by influencing them in a positive way. I was driving down 95. I didn't even know about it. I said, all of a sudden, I have this desire for a Chick-fil-A. You ever hear of them? I didn't know what it is, Chick-fil-A. And there's a billboard. Now, we're talking about one of the areas in 95 in the Carolinas where there's nobody. Maybe it was Georgia. I don't know. Anyway, so the next exit, there it is. So I pull over and get it. Now, I noticed Wendy's was doing okay with business. McDonald's was doing okay. The line went down the street for Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
You come here, the line goes down the street. Now, I have a pastor friend, father of 8 children, up in Hopewell, Virginia. And he told me once, and I don't know the quote, but it's like it says something to the effect of, maybe somebody will know it. I should call him, find out what that was. If you give to the Lord and make a sacrifice, he'll make up for it. And if you notice, they're closed on Sundays. They honor the Lord. And yet they're doing better than all the other corporations. They got to lose probably $1 billion a year. not being open on Sundays. I mean, you get out of church, you go, hey, let's go have a Chick-fil-A. Oh, we can't go to Chick-fil-A, you know.
Yeah.
You almost need a Chick-fil-A nicotine patch. Something you grab on Saturdays, have you to Sunday so you can get there on Monday.
Yeah.
But they're changing. They're changing kids. What is it that they're doing? Anybody know the system out there? I'd like to, and maybe they would support you too.
Well, we actually had the honor. So there's a new Chick-fil-A store opening up in Jensen, right off US
I
1.
saw it. Yeah,
And they
Not open yet.
they're opening tomorrow.
No,
I'm not
Well,
gonna.
even-
I don't want to speak for them.
Yeah.
But they actually, a part of their grand opening plan is to bless some nonprofits in the community with their employees for with Chick-fil-A for a year card. So last week they came in and actually blessed our staff with cards for Chick-fil-A for a year.
You're kidding.
It's amazing.
That's great.
I would eat 3 meals a day at Chick-fil-A except for Sundays.
Right,
I
yeah.
will tell you this. You know, they have the fried thing, and everybody,
Right.
honest about the fried. I happen to like the fried. So I kept talking about the new broiled. And so we're talking about, big shot talking about, want to lose weight, right? So we get there, and my wife says, let's get the broiled. I don't really want the broiled. So we got the broiled, and I have to tell you this.
Pretty good.
It's not pretty good. It's really good. As a matter of fact, it's kind of like maybe even a little better than the fried, and it's 100. I looked it up. It's 125
I hear
less calories.
I hear there's a cauliflower out there. Yeah, there's a cauliflower sandwich experimental somewhere.
No.
Some Chick-fil-A's are having that.
Chick-fil-A.
But you know what they do have? What's that green stuff that everybody makes into a salad and everybody like hates? I've always hated
Kale.
kale. I've always hated kale. Take the kale away. I don't want kale. They have a kale salad. I don't know what they're doing. I love it. They have a, it's like, I don't know, it's made of lemon and vinegar,
Yeah.
whatever it is. It's like, this is awesome. I can't stop eating it. It's delicious.
We appreciate Nathan Buchanan and his support for 4Kids and our staff. Our staff was
Isn't that wonderful?
pretty ecstatic about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
congratulations.
I think it's just another testimony of that. If you're faithful to the Lord, you give up a Sunday, you're going to commit a ministry that honors the Lord. There's a huge blessing in that. And this isn't a prosperity, health, and wealth thing. This isn't a sow a seed so you get something back. This is just faithfully follow Jesus. And there
and I
is
know
a blessing
there's
in
been
that.
some abuse in that department, and I
But-
get what
but
you're
this-
saying. But at the same time, there are laws of reciprocity. Not that you should manipulate that, because you might say, oh, I gave $10. How come I didn't get back 100? Well, do you remember you were cured of that cancer, that skin cancer? God has multiple ways. I do believe there are laws of reciprocity, but I understand where you're coming from as a pastor, because there's been a lot of abuse. Hey, come on now, give me a check right now, and we're going to send me $100,000, and the Lord will make you a millionaire.
I think that's just been a part of the 4Kids history. Is just faithful Christians following what Scripture dictates about how we should help children in the world, and they're making a real difference in many kids' lives here in Florida. And you've just seen this expand, and now we're at this awesome point where I think more churches getting involved with more families. You get to meet some of these kids, and even if they're with a 4Kids family for, let's say, 2 years and under, these children have such a positive view of what it means to know that God sees them right where they are, to know that they're not, listen, everybody's got trauma. But your heavenly Father, is your perfect Father. I think that's the message that kids need to know, that there is something reliable. Even for us, that Jesus is perfect when I'm imperfect. I need to hear that. And so we're able to really give that message to families, and then the kids that they help in foster care.
Live that message.
And
Yeah.
live it. And you see just wonderful stories. I know a few children who were reunified back to their families, and they're doing so well. And I know it's because 4Kids was involved.
Yeah, I mean, we really want to focus on healing for the child, but there's also measurable outcomes that really set 4Kids in our model and how we do this space so uniquely, set us apart. The national average for the length that a foster family serves as a foster family is about 14 months. That's it. Nationally, foster families last about 14 months, and then they close their homes for various reasons, but a lot of times because it is such a difficult space to be in. You're adding a whole new dynamic to your family with kids. With 4Kids, right now we're at about 32 months span of longevity. But with the services that we put in place with a program called FAM, which is Family Advocacy Ministry, where we set up a team of volunteers from the local church to cook the foster family a meal, go do their laundry, do their yard work, something that's going to help them.
Yeah, what gift do you have?
You can give to that foster family, and if they go through our trauma-informed training, we're looking at 38 plus months of service in a foster family. That's a significant increase over the national average. When you look at stability rates for child placement, so the state of Florida measures stability on moves per 1,000 days. So how many times does a child move in foster care over the span of 1,000 days? The goal for the state is between 4 and 5. We'll say 4.5. So 4.5. The state's goal is that a child will not move in foster care more than 4.5 times in 3 years. That's their goal. The state average right now is exceeding 5 moves per 1,000 days. With 4 kids, we're less than 1. 4 kids is less than 1 move per 1,000 days for a child, and that's because it is because God has blessed us to steward this ministry, but it's because the church is the one that's doing it. And when you get God's people doing God's will, it's gonna be successful, and that's what we're seeing. And really, I mean, it sounds boastful to say, but what 4 Kids is doing in this community and in South Florida is indispensable. The state of Florida recognizes that. And the community should recognize it too. We talked about training, and the other point you brought up was money, right? I run a nonprofit, so it would be remiss of me not to talk about. We need help with funding. In this community, we need to take care of ourselves, and we need to give where the Lord leads. And what 4 Kids is doing, again, through the body of the church, it takes funding. About 65% of our funding annually comes from donors. And we would love to give you the opportunity to invest into a ministry that is kingdom-minded, that is making a significant difference in the community, and is having real tangible results that you can see changing the fabric of our community. If you want to touch things like homelessness, sex trafficking, incarceration rates, ground zero is foster care, because the overwhelming majority of those categories, those people have spent time in foster care. It's incredible. If you touch foster care, you literally change the fabric of your culture 10, 15, 20 years down the road. But also, foster care is a response to a crisis. And what's the crisis? It's breakdown of the family. So as 4 Kids, what we do primarily is foster care, but we also have prevention services that we do through the body of the church. That program's called Care Portal, where churches can enroll in a platform called Care Portal. It's an online...
Say it again. What's the word?
Care Portal. One word.
Care Portal.
Yep. And what the child welfare professionals, the state agencies are using when they encounter a family that needs resources for that family to stabilize and stay together. So let's say they go in and the kids aren't sleeping on a bed, or there's no food in the fridge, or they don't have the right size car seat to get to a medical appointment. We don't want to remove the child from a home if it's not for the reasons of abuse, abandonment, neglect. We want to try to keep the kids and the families together. It's a shame if a child has to be removed because the parents fell on hard times and they can't afford a bed for the kid to sleep on. So what these workers can do...
you said a seat in the church. When I was growing up, you threw the kid in the back seat and matter of fact, all these laws now, it's like...
fortunately, it's for our safety. So, I'm glad for them. But the downside of it is those heightened safety measures for good reason also create barriers and difficulties for families.
You need donations to help buy...
No, watch this. What? This is what we do.
What?
The state agencies will submit the needs for that family in this system called Care Portal. It alerts the local church. Portal. It alerts the local church network that surrounds that family by the zip code, and the church can then respond, get a team together from the church, and actually go meet the needs of the family. But more so than just give the item to the family, they show up as the church and say, hey, we're here for you. We want you to succeed and be better. We want you to advance to the place you want to be. How can we help? We have a men's group, Dad, you can come to. We've got VBS, the kids you can come
What's
to.
VBS?
Vacation Bible School. Church work.
Great.
Yeah. So it's more so churches participating in Care Portal gives them direct access to families in crisis in their local community, lets them know what that family needs, and lets them go out and be the church to them. And again, you're not just dropping an item off and saying good luck in the future, because we know that giving a family a bed isn't going to get them out of crisis.
Okay, again, just to put this in, the number 4kids.us, 4kids.us. If you're hearing anything you're interested, you want to foster a child, you want to adopt a child, you want to be involved, you want to give some money, you want to give some time. I think it's great what you said before. This one lady goes in and washes the laundry. I can tell you in the end, probably up in heaven, there'll be some guy gave $100 million away out of his billion, and some lady washed the underwear for the kids, and they're sitting in the front row. And,
That's amazing.
and the billionaire's going to go, how'd you get here? I gave $100 million. Well, I washed their underwear.
Well, if you want to give $100 million, I'll send you the link to
They're
donate.
out there.
Donations.
God does prosper people.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that the Lord spoke to me, I don't know, remember, I think I told you this maybe a year and a half ago, and I'd given somebody something, and I got into the car, and this lady was crying, and I had a little tear in my eye, and he said, this is what I felt. Now, I didn't hear an audible voice at this time, but it was, give now, because where you're going, they're not going to need your money. Think about that. What if this is one window in time, and for all eternity, this is it. He's creating his eternal friends, right? Chris is probably knowing him, probably goes, who knows what God's plans are. But let's just say there's a window, and it's a short window, and you can either give now. Can you imagine having a lot of dough and you're flying up out of your body and go,
And it's all back.
I could have clothed those kids. I could have fed those people. You know, so
Dave Ramsey says, you want to live like no one else so that later you can live and give like no one else. And there's a value to, later down the road, you're blessed financially in other ways so that you can be a blessing. Get involved. I think there's a lot of great programs out there, but truly for kids, it's a gem. It's a gem.
I can tell you this as a 70-year-old guy. Looking back now, I want to warn younger people. You will come to an age, I presume most, at least I have now, where you realize the value is all inverted. The only thing you're going to look back and think, did I help somebody? Did I do something of value?
Okay, if I can speak to one thing, because you mentioned Care Portal.
Yeah.
Just a real example from 4 years ago. Met with a family that a DCF employee. So this was not through 4Kids, but we got in touch, and it's a caseworker working with a mom raising up her boy and dealing with hoarding issues, and they are trying to keep the family together. The child is, already without a father, but attached to the mom. It would not be good to separate the two just because they're in a really, really bad state.
Because she hoards or whatever. So what? I can understand that. You're poor. Look at people.
So our church
they pay all this
phone
money
number,
to store all their junk.
our church phone number got connected to the sheriff's office, brought us out to help clean up this house.
Really?
Give this mom
And that's
a
how you
helping
got
hand.
to that mom and child?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that beautiful?
And now you're seeing the benefits of that 4 years
Why
later.
did they call you? The local government officials.
In
you
God's
need to find out so we can do more of it.
in God's providence,
Care
they
Portal.
work
Well,
together.
that's the reason.
that's-
Was that Air
Well,
Portal?
it wasn't it, but it was like it at the
Yeah.
time.
Right.
And I'm just saying, this preserved a family.
Right.
And it brought us out as the church, and now they're connected with the local
And
church.
I happen to know the
ever since.
child involved,
Yeah.
and he loves his mother.
Yeah, So,
she loves him.
so this is like, if you can.
It's
prevent
not for
the
us to
crisis.
decide. It's just like with there was a lady who was pregnant, and they said she was foolish. She should get an abortion. I think she had 9 children. I think she also had some sort of a venereal disease, and she decided not to have an abortion. That child turned out to be Mozart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, it's for us, right? We want to reduce the number of kids coming into care that shouldn't be coming into care, and we want to increase the number of foster families that we have, so that every child who is in care gets to be in a home. Right now, as of January, we don't have February stats yet, but as of January, there were 73 children on the Treasure Coast who didn't have a home, a foster home. They have to live in a group home, in a shelter. 73 children that we don't have homes for.
Yeah.
My parents used to run for the what do you call it? What they used to, orphanage in Poughkeepsie, New York, for years. I knew it was girls, and I know some of the girls had not had proper nutrition as babies, and my parents said they'll never be quite.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, our and I want to be clear that the shelters that we have in place are necessary because we don't have enough homes, and they do a great job. They do what they have to do.
Thank God.
But we want homes for these children. Everybody desires to be and deserves to be in a loving family, and that's where again we want to reduce the number of kids coming in care for a multitude of reasons, right? Reduces trauma to the family, to the child. Economically, it is tens of thousands of dollars a year that it costs the state for a child to be in foster care. Economically, if we can reduce the number of kids coming into care because a church stepped up and said, hey, we're going to save the state $30,000 this year because we gave them a bed and we wrapped around them and now this family is together. I mean, it's a win for everybody. And that's why the state looks at 4 kids and what we're doing in the model that we have and appreciates it so much. One, we help with the budget, which if somebody wants to help with my budget, again, I can give you the link to donate. But
4 kids.
4kids.us. 4kids.us.
The number 4.
The number 4. But again, and that's a superficial benefit of it, but it really is for us. I talked about this we have weekly devotionals as a staff, and I talked about it on Sunday or on Wednesday, and I said, if we're not pointing people to Christ, then we're not doing the full extent of what we're called to do, because He's the answer. He's the solution. He's the healing. Our therapy can bring a child along, but it's the Spirit of God that comes in and does the healing and the restoration. And that for us, we have a 3-year strategic plan that we build every 3 years. The very first point on our 3-year strategic plan is maintaining authentic Christianity. That's our number one thing. If we're not putting Christ at the center of what we do, then we're no longer the 4 kids that God has called us to be. Yeah. And that's what we're committed to.
Yeah.
There is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother, the Holy Spirit, right?
Yep.
Oh, if I could maybe plug one thing as well, in just about a month, we're hosting at Morning Star, April 13th.
Don't give a date, because I want to keep this for years.
Sure.
But to contact, what are you having in April?
Well, we're inviting a bunch of people from the whole community, especially
churches. Can they log
churches.
onto a website to find out about this?
It's on our church website.
Okay, and that church website is?
morningstarbureau.org.
Okay, and what exactly is it?
We are hosting Pancakes for a Purpose. It's a dinner.
Oh, yeah, that's next week.
Yes, well, it's coming around the corner. And
are you going to have real maple? What's going on?
We're going to have
real maple syrup?
We're going to have not just real maple, real Vermont maple syrup.
Ah,
so we'll Rhett to come. He's a big Vermont guy. So.
There you go.
Well, we had a men's meeting out there recently, and Rhett brought real
He
maple
brought the
syrup.
real stuff.
There we
Aunt
go.
Jemima got kicked
No
out.
Aunt Jemima.
And I love Aunt Jemima. But no, we are hosting this event because we want not just to help with the funding of the 4Kids program, which is one of the points of it, but the other point is for more churches to get involved. So this is not an event for just us Morningstar people. And then third is we want to open up 25 homes before 2025. And I know you mentioned...
This is for 4 kids.
Yes.
Then why don't you invite a bunch of pastors to come along too?
Oh, yes.
How do you do this?
Tuesday, I got a big
The
meeting.
word's out there.
We're here.
And have somebody speak. Get up, speak up, and then shut up and sit down, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because, some people go, I hate to admonishment here, but Billy Graham was the greatest orator of all time as far as I'm concerned. Go on to YouTube. He never spoke. Max was 29 minutes. Most of them are 17, 27, 24, 23. So I figure anybody that speaks more than that is exalting themselves as a greater orator. The less you say, believe me, I know in this business because I'm a blabbermouth, the less you say, the more they remember. So remember that. Get up, speak up. I think I went to an event last night, though, where these kids were going to have an abortion. And the 2 of them came to CareNet?
CareNet.
Yeah, and they decided, they had a video, and they decided they were being interviewed and decided to keep the child. And then, of course, when they stood up, the place went nuts, and tears are rolling down your face, and it's so lovely to see. And so that's what like I said before, you have a credibility when you have children, and these guys have that credibility to say we're actually in the trenches, we're doing this right now, and our house is a house of love. You can have a house of love too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Participate.
You don't have to be perfect.
No.
Yeah.
You don't have to be perfect.
And I like to say, one of the things that for Melissa and I to consider becoming foster parents was knowing that 4Kids said, "We will help you. You're not getting involved in doing foster
You're not
care
gonna be
on your
alone."
own." We never felt we're going to be on our own island. I mean, yeah, you have the church support, but 4Kids knows how to wrap around a foster family to help you figure out how to work with children who've been dealing with trauma. And I got to tell you, that was so helpful for us. So for people considering getting involved in foster care, if you connect with 4Kids, they will equip you. Don't worry about how you get there. They will help. And that, I think, is a huge blessing to people considering becoming licensed foster parents.
Well, I think it's great that it's a Christian organization too. Like I said, with Chick-fil-A, I mean, they are a Christian organization. You can't even become a partner unless you go to church so many days a month and participate. And I presume that's true with the kids. I don't know. I'd like to ask them sometime what it is they have to fill out, forms they have to fill out in order to be one of those kids.
The Chick-fil-A employees?
All the kids are so mannerly and so clean
They have good
cut,
training. Yeah.
Black, white, Hispanic, all of them. They just seem bright and with it and happy and just they look you square in the eye and you go, wow, where are they finding these good kids? Because you don't see them at other fast food places. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
What can I do for
I think
you?
that can go back to what Michael was saying, where it could be in our families and our parents as well. There's nobody perfect, but with the right amount of training, or with the right training, then we can all do this work. And anyone could do it,
Well, I do want to thank you guys. I salute you. I'm honored that the three of you would come in here. And so, Pastor Trevor, you put us all together. Thank you. Because he called me when you were having lunch a few weeks back and said, hey, you want to join this? So this wouldn't be happening if you hadn't put us together. And bless you and your wife and your 2 new adopted children and 2 more coming your way. It's great. You had an empty house.
Yeah.
For many years, you both were professionals. Then you decided to leave that. She left. She's back to being your wife is a physician's
She's a
assistant.
physician, yeah.
And now you have a great big new car.
Hey, yeah, I know. You got to
Cart
put the
all
kids
those
somewhere.
kids.
Yeah, right?
I mean, how do you go from no kids to 4 kids?
Well, you joined
you
4
joined 4
Kids.
Kids.
I didn't know. I was
go to-
signing up for
Prerequisite,
Go to
Power
4kids.us.
of words, right?
Exactly.
So
That's
it's
it.
by the way, it's the number 4kids.us. 4kids.us. Okay, home. It says
Hope,
homes,
homes,
and
healing.
healing.
Is there a phone number as well? Or keep it through the website?
Yeah, so there's an easy way if you wanted a real quick way to get all the ways that you can serve. You can text the number 4 and TC, so the numerical 4 TC, like Treasure Coast, to the number 43136. 4 TC to 43136. That's going to send you a list of things, foster, serve, give, pray. You text back whatever number that you're interested in, and we're able to connect you with you that way.
All right, or 4kids.us. Okay, so Cory, thank you for putting me together with and inviting your CEO to come along. I liked you immediately when I mentioned, and I thanked you for doing what you're doing. And Michael Keene, great to meet you. You and your wife, 3 children that they had biologically, and 4 that they've adopted. So these are legitimate people who are not just talking it; they're walking it. And again, the scripture that you said at the beginning,
James 1:27, pure and undefiled religion before God is caring for orphans and widows and keeping oneself unstained from the world.
the Lord bless you and keep you. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
That's right.